Um,
So where are we getting 89?
I'm looking at the finance report that was emailed by Chuck.
Okay, it wasn't in the packet then. That one was not in my packet. Here it is. Let me
Yeah,
look at it.
he emailed it in another email right after the packet.
Okay. Digital billboards. No. Okay, let me look at my email.
Everything was emailed to the entire board. I use the same group setting.
Right, but I went in and picked up my packet, so you added something else to it, is what you're telling me.
They probably would have been added after that. It may have been added after that, and it was emailed to you.
Okay. Let me go back up here. And that's you're saying it's 89,000?
Right. So what I have from his latest one, from Mary Lee, it's 89,398.
Okay. Let me look at these two. Sorry about that, guys, but I need to just look at it. And what else was changed on there? Was there anything else changed on that?
I think it's pretty much what we looked at. I don't see too many. I mean, I can't see any changes. So it's basically what we're looking at. All right. If there's not any other discussion on it, almost identical to what we talked about. If there's not any questions, we can move on to public input if there's any.
I do not have any public input.
Well, wait a minute. I might. Oh, hold on. Okay, the agenda, we did the discussion. How much?
I'm not sure, and the only thing that may have changed is maybe the visitor center was 15 and it's 20, but I could be wrong. But I mean, everything else is pretty much what we talked about.
Finance. Okay. Budget. All right.
Okay. So for anybody that just joined, we were at public input, but it looks like there is no public input, so we can move on to the agenda. And the first on our list is approval, disapproval of Friends of the City of Las Vegas Museum and Rough Rider Memorial. That was the collection, the E. Romero Firehouse and Azteca Museum.
Is this the final phase of that funding for that project?
I believe it's for this, they had, actually, is he online? Is he with this?
Are you referring to me, Shane?
Yes, that would be Mr. Patrick Gallery.
Oh.
Yeah, you want to respond to that? Just get a quick, I know you've done it a couple of times, but just a quick overview of what your project's about, Shane.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, gladly. I'd love to. So, what the funding that's being asked for specifically in this proposal is, in some ways, I guess you could say, necessary activity both to open the museum and prepare it for its existence as a museum that doesn't fit under the budget that was allocated by the state. The $70,000 that was allocated to the city for the build out of the museum is mostly going for things like hardware and exhibit panels and things like that. What we're asking for here in this is kind of a supplement which allows for the main following areas. There was a part of the museum plan that would have been done by another intern. There's an intern doing design, but the original plan was for a second intern to do a bunch of digital programming, since most of the material is going to have to go onto large screens simply because of the size of the museum. So there is a lot of preparatory. That heavy digital programming is for another time after we're open. We've decided the real heavy interactive stuff has to wait till later. So mainly what's in this proposal is the following. Preparation of images for both panels and for a sort of a really basic digital presentation of a lot of the materials, particularly ones pertaining to the sort of more recent part of the history of the volunteer fire department. So like a lot of pictures from the 60s and 70s, which were still part of the volunteer era. All that stuff needs to be digitized at higher quality, both for immediate exhibition purposes as well as archival purposes. So that's a huge part of what that proposal is, and the preparation of that digital material to go on the touch screens for the or the exhibition screens for the opening of the exhibit. And so the other part, which is archival, and which is something that will necessarily need to be addressed generally, but not specifically by the board. But what we prepared is, as those images are being scanned and prepared, there's a part of the component of this, which is, since those photos have to be taken out and handled and everything, get them into archival sleeves and start to make them part of a real museum collection, which is an activity that has not been accounted for in the overall plan in the museum and needs to start to be taken seriously as the museum goes forward. So since it's part of the preparation for the opening of the museum, we might as well start to, and so that's the part of the proposal that is for that, those supplies, is to buy archival quality envelopes, boxes, etc., to start to put things like photos in. There's also parts of that proposal that you'll see in there that also address needing to basically prepare and handle the artifacts for both the opening exhibition, as well as the artifacts that there's no room for in the museum that have to be made safe for future the collection of the museum. So that's all that you see there, and it's all so it's that, yeah, that's, sorry, I probably geeked out on that a bit, but apologies. So I'm here to also answer any additional questions about any of it.
So then you're telling us that this is not the last phase of it?
Oh no, well, it's the last phase to open the museum. Where we're at with both funding from the state and with this will get us to where we can open the museum and it's a good, fully functioning, totally ready to see museum. People will come in, they'll see artifacts, they'll see display cases, they'll see panels, they'll see digital content on the screens, although it won't be everything we'd want from that, but it'll be a full digital content thing with photos of people who were part of the fire department and that are still alive even, and stuff like that. Like, it's a fully open and functional museum. The additional, what I mean by later is, we had plans for even more digital content and a more sophisticated interface, so that even more material can be added, but that can be done later as part of like regular development with an open museum, right? New exhibits, new content to be added later. We were just hoping to do it also in the beginning, but there's just not the funds for it. So where we want to get, and what's part of this plan, is really basically to do a very high quality digital slideshow and document show presentation is what's in this proposal.
And how much is that when this proposal you're asking to do to finish this up, to
So
make
the
it
full-
open?
For this part of, aside from the budget that the city has to do the real big stuff, the cases and everything, for the purposes of this proposal, I just had it, I lost it. I'll give it you the brief breakdown here. 4,000, because this is kind of the lion's share of the time, is going to be that high resolution scanning of all the media. And that media is kind of indicated in the exhibition plan that was done, that you guys basically previously funded to make that exhibition plan or exhibition script. So all those, as well as the media for the digital exhibit, I guess you could say, that's that first part. The second part is the creation of that document slideshow, which, is, well, yeah, so that's that part. Artifact preparation is really getting the artifacts prepared. Some limited cleaning. We don't want to clean them up too much, but there will be some preparation for the artifacts to that actually go on display. There's a little bit in there to keep working with the intern that is doing the design of the panels and consulting with, that regarding the content, ongoing consultation. The preservation services regarding the collection are doing all that prep. It's moving and working with whoever I need to work with. We still need a place to put the collection safely in the long term. Right now, it's all like in a room at Station 2, in the way it's been for 20 years with everything piled on top of each other. We took it out of there, arranged it, cataloged it, but it's going to need to go back somewhere. Part of that is funding to both just to deal with that situation and start to catalog it a little bit, which already kind of happened in the sort of prepping of the script. And then the archival grade preservation materials, those are literally materials like buying those archival grade photo sleeves, document sleeves, boxes, whatever else is needed to start to really properly care for these artifacts that are basically shoved in drawers at this point, and other kinds of what are considered horror shows for archivists and museum preparators and people like me. So yeah, so that's the breakdown of what that the financial breakdown for what the proposal is for.
Okay. It looks like, from my agenda, the total request is, amounts up to 15,000.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
And I wanted to put these two on there because if you guys look at our finance report, it looks like we have about 23, close to 24K available. So this would slide in the two projects on our agenda today, the Romero and Las Vegas Citizens Committee. That's the next one for 7. That would get us right underneath what we have for our current infrastructure budget, but we're going to have discussion as far as the EDA grant and new and other business. So there could be more spending, but these two projects could fit, just FYI for everyone, these two projects would fit right in our budget line for what we have left for infrastructure for this fiscal year. So is there any other questions or discussion for this project? All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
No, hold on. I was on mute. Okay, then what about that mobile site? What does that come into? Does that down the road still?
So is that a question for me?
That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's,
I didn't quite hear you, Georgina. What was the question again?
The mobile site, is that part of yours too? Or is that?
no,
Another-
Georgina, the mobile site is CCHP, and that's the second.
Okay,
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine then. Ignore that question then.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wait till we get to the next one.
Okay. So looks like we're at the designing discussion. We're at the approval disapproval phase. So if I have a motion to it looks like I don't have any objections. If I have a motion to approve, I'll take it.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the finish, supposedly, I guess to me it looks like it's the last phase of that initial grant, correct? Hello?
So is that in the form of a motion, Ms. Angel, or?
Yes, but I want to make sure that I'm clear on it, that it's the last
Okay,
of
well,
that
that would be, then you'd have
final
to,
phase.
you would have to ask your question before you make the motion.
Okay,
Point of
so my
clarification.
question would be again,
Yeah,
to clarify that it is the last of a final phase for that grant, for the original funding that you had for that.
for the firehouse.
Yes,
Okay, so yeah, so this grant, along with state funds, should open get the museum to where it can open and be an open facility, assuming that they figure out what the staffing is. But yes, it'll get it physically and operationally to where it can be an open museum when we get to open the city up again and start to serve both the visitors and the community. Yes, I would say yes.
okay. All right, well
Yeah.
then I do make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
All right.
I said,
Roll call.
my lunch break, and I said, okay. I said, I'll be here. But I think she called first thing like at 11 and paid over the phone.
Okay, who, Mr. Alpha made a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have the paper.
Okay, Mr. Baca,
Yes.
This Angela's credit.
Mr. Alpha,
Uh,
I think her name's Angela.
Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes,
Shauna Sandoval.
Yes.
You have a first by Georgina Ortega Angel, a second by Alan Alfio. The motion does carry.
and not to mention, we're like the only bar open, so you guys can get food. And they're like, you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
I will, okay, first thing in the morning.
Hopefully, we can open it in better circumstances. So hopefully the grand opening will go well.
Yeah, there's the whole thing with, I'm hoping that can happen with the plan for the Fireman's Ball and for the Fireman's events that I really think will anchor visitation going forward, which I know Alan heard all this plan, but, and I'll gladly babble on about it at a different time to everybody about how I really think the firehouse is going to be not only an amazing thing for visitation, but a great bridge between, serving the community and serving visitors. So I'm really excited.
Good deal.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. I agree with that. The question I would have is more and more museums are going to be challenged by staffing. So there's the kind of revenue operations question that will come into play unless the museum can be either monitored remotely or operated somehow with displays that don't require someone to be on site, because otherwise you got a budgetary and operational problem.
Just so you know, and I will also gladly talk to whoever wants to hear about this, I actually had a meeting with Cabrini this morning, who is really proactively pursuing how the City Museum can provide remote and digital services to the community and visitors, and like basically be a museum that doesn't have to actually be open. And it's related to some other projects I'm working on where I'm completely developing out how to really do this and do remote speaker series, remote programming, remote activities. And the Firehouse Museum is a site that even before all this happened seemed like the right place to do that, especially within the community, to keep these sort of narratives going and really explore programming, whether digital or in person, as a way of really making museums vital. So if you ever want to hear me babble on about that for half an hour, I'll gladly do that to you, because I think that between Cabrini and myself and whoever else is interested, we can provide really robust cultural programming without needing to be open necessarily, although of course it would be great to be open, but there's ways, and we're looking really aggressively at those ways. So if you want to hear those plans, I'll tell you.
Okay, thanks, Shane. We're at B of the agenda, Las Vegas Citizens Committee for Historic Preservation, Connect Las Vegas Mobile Guide to Historic Sites, and they're requesting 7,000. Do we have Mr. From CCHP? Is he on the call today? No.
That's a shame because I have some questions. Can we
Are
ask
you-
questions anyway so they're out
Are
there?
you? Is it supposed to be Frank Bershkins?
Yes.
Yeah.
he was notified.
Oh, they're in Nevada or something.
Okay.
So
I
is
didn't.
it tabled then or what?
Well, I mean, he had already given his presentation a couple of times. Right now, it's at approval, disapproval. So we've had the presentation.
I want to know who's going to maintain the app. Where, because it is an app that they're applying for, correct? It is going to be a mobile app, a mobile site. Who's maintaining it? Is this a funding submission for a startup? What is the 7,000 going to actually, is it going to pay for that startup? Is it going to pay for somebody to manage the app? That's my question.
So I believe from what he said, and I'm trying to remember his presentation. I mean, they changed the initial request, and now they're going to. Before it was to license the app software itself, which I was pretty excited about, and I thought the city could use, and I wanted the city to own it because multiple areas and multiple entities would be able to take advantage of that app. But maybe that was too good of an idea. So their idea is that they are going to go ahead and purchase the license themselves for that app. And the 7,000 they're requesting is for the work it's going to take to get their site going as far as the Las Vegas Mobile Guide to Historic Sites. So to get that project going, they're requesting 7,000, which I believe is down from the original request.
All right, and then they're going to manage it, maintain it, correct? They
Yeah.
will not come back to us for any additional funds to manage or ask for anything else for maintaining it?
I do not know that. I mean, I know in the initial request this was to get the project going and to have a functional mobile site. Now, as far as future requests, that would be something that they would have to answer. I don't know that from the presentation from what I remember. I don't know if anybody else on the board remembers as far as when Frank did the presentation.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm just a little worried that it's going to. I want to know who's going to manage it, maintain it. Are they going to? Will they do it, or will they depend on the city to try and scramble to do something?
It looks like since they already own the license, I mean, they're going to be. I mean, this is the project is for CCHP, so I would venture to say that they're going to, try to support it going forward. So again, the initial request was to help get the project going. I would imagine that they would maintain it at least for some amount of time. But here's what we can do. We are going to have another special meeting because of the EDA grant that we're going to discuss here. And the other issue at hand is a lot of or a good portion of the approvals that we've made in the past couple of meetings, you're going to have to do again. That's what I got from my understanding from Bill, because we didn't make it right before the fiscal year. So we need to reapprove it for the new fiscal year for some of the things we approved. So that's why we're going to have a special meeting for that. So I think we're gonna already have another meeting, special meeting here after this one. What we can do is discuss and have this this project in the next meeting.
So this one would be, you were denying this one or you're approving this one?
No, we could table it since hopefully we could get Frank in and on the next one because it sounds like we do have some questions. So that's a suggestion. If not, if we want to go the other way for approval, that's fine. But if there's concerns and questions and we don't have CCHP or Frank to answer those, I'm just providing information that we are having another special meeting because we've got some more work to do. That's going to be before August. So we can table it for now, a suggestion, and put it into the next meeting and have Frank answer any remaining questions before we approve. And that next meeting is going to have quite a bit of other events and approvals that we want because we're going to attempt to have a considerable amount of matching funds that we'd want to go after as far as grant money. That we can have that conversation in your other business and the next meeting. So I'll entertain what the board would like to do on there or any other discussion.
Krutik, I don't know that this helps any at all with this issue, and if you want to table it, it's fine. But I think that the city was enthusiastic and willing partner on this project.
Okay. Yeah,
I agree. I think that I share Georgina's concerns, though, just because sometimes these projects, they start with a lot of momentum and then just seem to fall by the wayside after time. So maybe we could discuss too about, say, allocating lodgers tax money every year, or finding a way, like a future plan for it is a really smart idea.
Well, yeah, and so I'm not saying this would be just pushing it into the next meeting, and it sounds like it's going to be a matter of weeks. So this isn't, to me, in my mind, we're not shutting this down. I think we're just trying to say, hey, let's. I mean, since we're going to have another special meeting very close, anyways, we could probably talk about it then and get these questions out of the way and approve at that time. And I don't think it doesn't seem like a huge issue since we're having the next meeting. So, fairly quickly here. That also gives us time to talk about this grant and what's happening there. I'm a bit hesitant to commit every year to a project to maintain things. I don't think that's what lodgers tax is for. I don't want to enter into continuous contracts where we're doing that every year. We have a few things that are in there, kind of like the visitors center and those things, but I'm leery of slowly eroding away our lodgers tax funding by committing to maintenance. I think we should be an incubator to start projects, to get them off the ground, to get them going, get some of these infrastructure things. I mean, the infrastructure is for the long-term type of things. And so to me, building a museum, I mean, this is going to help us for years. And we wouldn't have to continuously feed. It's being built. Same thing for wayfinding. Those are the type of things that we can do. But I'm leery of having to continuously support something. I think that needs to be in the budgets of general fund of the city. So if we got wayfinding off the ground, I'm hoping that part of that the city will be maintaining those signs and they don't rot and go away and so on. So we can continue to do these new things and get these projects started if we keep our budget open projects like these.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have, this is Georgina. I just want to make sure that the next meeting we have, that there is somebody from CCHP to answer these questions. Is there a possibility to make sure that somebody is there to answer our questions?
On behalf of the city, we can put the invitation out there. Like I did this time. I can't guarantee that there'll be somebody there. I can only put out the invitation.
In all likelihood, Mr. Berkins will be there. He just went on vacation. I mean, everybody's going
Yeah.
on at this time of year. Just in support of what Krutik just said, I worked for the legislature for many years, and one legislature cannot bind the hands of a future legislature. So
Right.
don't do multi-year things. And so I think it's the same philosophy. There may be a different board in the future, and you cannot obligate them to do certain things. So, and in practice, we tend to do those things anyway because they're a good idea. But,
Right. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying on that bit, Kruchek.
Okay, so can I entertain a motion to table this item until the next special meeting?
Yes,
Or I will entertain a motion to approve. I'm open to the board again.
I say that I make a motion that we table this until our next meeting for a vote, for clarification, actually.
Okay. I could second.
All right. Roll call.
So I have a motion. Okay. Mr. Bogdan,
Yes.
Mr. Alfeld,
Yes,
Mr. Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes,
Shauna Sandoval.
Yes.
I have a first from Georgina Ortega Angel, a second from Shauna Sandoval. Motion does carry.
All right. So now we're on to new and other business. And what we have in front of us, and this is just a conversation with Bill and Wid, we have a chance to approve more things to encumber for the next meeting, with the hope that the EDA grant that WID is putting together will have a match for it. So, WID, I will have you present again and repeat exactly what you're doing with EDA. Just so we're on the same page for the next meeting.
Okay. The EDA grant is based on how much match the city provides. And so I think you had in your packets, or if not, maybe Chuck can put it on the screen. There is a whole series of projects that you could put on the action agenda. I would not be asking y'all to approve any project that you don't feel it stands on its own. But if it is a project that you're going to approve at some time in the fiscal year and you approve it now, it could be leveraged 4-to-1 with grant money from EDA. Very quickly, the reason I feel that we would have a good shot with EDA is that Las Vegas is part of the poorest counties in New Mexico, and New Mexico is the second poorest state. And the Economic Development Administration, what they're looking for is to always enhance economies, and right now to enhance economies hurt by the COVID. And from data that's come in, can somebody mute? I'm having trouble. Data that came in April, May, and June, y'all have been had your tourism economy reduced by at least half, which is $7 million that's not circulating in Las Vegas. So what I would like to do is open this up to questions from y'all about the grant, about what the match could be, and respond rather than just talk on.
Okay. I'm looking at the, it looks like one of the sheets that you provided here. So just like, for example, just so everybody kind of has an idea. So like the first item under marketing, you have billboards and geofencing of 33,508. And then can you explain how that works, just so everybody's clear enough, they know about the 80% EDA, what that means. So
Okay.
33,508, what does that mean?
33,508 is the money y'all have already allocated to Las Vegas First for billboards. And what billboards include in this day and age is not just the highway signs, but digital signage in metropolitan areas and geofencing, where you advertise directly to passing travelers' mobile apps along the highways with billboards. So,
right, but it's we're just really on about how the grant works. So basically 33,508, you're saying we approved. And so with the EDA grant, you've listed 80%. So that's 98,340. So what you're trying to do is
actually the 98,340, I don't see each line item being a direct 4-to-1 match. But the 98,340 is enough for y'all to add billboards in digital billboards in West Texas and Southern Colorado, and geofence I-25 with mobile advertising.
What I'm trying to get clear here is that we spend the 33,508. Are you saying with the grant, we get 98,340? Is that what you're saying in this? Okay, I just want to be clear for everyone. So then we'd have a total, just for as an example, I'm just trying to do an example of this grant.
Right.
So we already approved the 3508, we would get 80% match. That's what I thought it was the other way, but so 98,340. So instead we'd have a total of 131,841 to spend on the billboards because we approved 33,508 to be encumbered for the grant.
Exactly.
Clear? Okay. If we go down through all these line items, this is correct. So visitor's guide, we already approved for 26. We would get 158 from EDA. So is there a reason why there's a greater amount there coming back?
Yes, 158,000 responds to your desire to move advertising in West Texas and Southern Colorado. And this is different advertising. The idea here is to put a visitor guide into homes in still Albuquerque, but say Colorado Springs, Amarillo, Lubbock, through newspaper insert. And if you think about the demographic of people that still subscribe to newspapers, they're older, they're richer, and they prefer print to digital. So that's just a budget estimate of getting that particular advertising to happen just as we can open up for tourists again. 300,000 visitor guides in the hands of people in their homes.
Hey, Win, this is Georgina.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't have any kind of visitor guide this year for this season, what are we doing with that funding? Are we going to roll it over? Is that it? And we're going to use that for the new fiscal year? Is that 26,000 we're talking about?
That
For that
26,
visitor's guide?
that would be on your agenda for the 29th to roll it over into the next fiscal year. Yes. And that would be a choice you get to make.
So
So we will, go ahead.
so my question is, we're doing this line by line so that advertising dollars, raise more advertising dollars in that. Couldn't we in fact just use this as match and use it for anything that we wanted to in terms of things that would enhance tourism? I don't think it has to be a line by line match, or does it?
I'm still having trouble with the math there. So is 158 what we'd like to do? Is 158 what we're getting in exchange for the 26 visitors guide? I'm just kind of confused on this whole column on the 80% EDA. Somebody can explain that to me.
I'll try. It's a combination of Bill's question. If you come up with a total of 337,000 in match, you can get $1,348,000 from EDA. The budget that is here is a draft budget, and it is not, I'm hoping, a line item budget that we give to EDA, because I would see the EDA money basically being handled by the Lodgers Tax Board the way you handle your lodgers tax now, except you have a bigger budget. For instance, you could put out an RFP and Las Vegas First could come in and say, for $158,000, we can do this amount of advertising. Do you approve it? And if you don't, then some other line item could get that budget. Does that help at all, Bill?
Yeah, so essentially, you've given a suggested budget, but the Lodgers Tax Board could recommend using that money in any way they wanted to.
Within the general parameters of marketing or tourist-related infrastructure, correct?
Okay, so do we need to have that money budgeted so we can do that? Or right now we have, it looks like we have, again, from that finance report, we have 89,000. But then I see on this projection, now I see it. So on this other page, in I guess the same packet, we have 85,000. So we have between 85 and 89,000 left in our budget there. And I believe that's actually actual money. So what do we need to have done for this grant to work? I think I asked that the last time. Do we just need to say it's encumbered and we've approved that and council approves it, or I need the specifics on how the grant works? What happens if we somehow don't get the grant? So that's would be the other questions.
All right, there's multiple questions there. If we don't get the grant, we don't get it. Las Vegas First is taking the costs of writing the grant and submitting it. So the city's out nothing if you don't get it.
Okay.
If you do get it, then there will be budget flexibility. What I think needs to happen before the 29th is a clearer budget report being made available to you. Because some of these things are already approved and in your encumbrances from the previous fiscal year. You don't need new fiscal year 21 money for them. And you've now created a budget that gives you more than the 89,000. So I am hoping that, yes, you would be let me see, the third question is, the amount of EDA is definitely based on how much you're willing as a lodger's tax board to encumber.
Well,
And if it's,
do you have I guess it's brand new, but do you have a percentage? 75% chance, 80% chance, 90% chance? As far as getting the grant. So look, we can encumber.
oh, okay.
But the problem is we're doing that based on the fact that we want this match, right? But if we don't end up getting it, well, we've encumbered a whole lot of money that we might decide to use differently, knowing that there's not a match. So that's the situation we're in. So I hear you that, hey, let's try to encumber as much as we can, but those are choices we may not make if the EDA wasn't there.
I will say once again, Krutik, I understand that. I don't think you should encumber $1 of lodger's tax unless you believe that the project it's for stands on its own and will help Las Vegas. So just to make a match for the grant is not the way to go. I mean, every project that could be matched should be voted up and down based on its own. My suggestion is you do that voting up and down September 29th when it could count as match if you voted up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. It still is a tough proposition. I understand that's something, but the issue with is the incoming money and how everyone's doing and what we're going to start with. So we don't know what the unknown's not there. We don't know if anything in the fall is even going to exist. So most of the things we'd be approving, and I guess we could go to that case by case in the next meeting on how we feel about that. So maybe that's something we can do. And but I just want to make it clear to everyone. Yeah, Wood's correct. I mean, we should be only approving it if we're comfortable with the project. I don't think we should be doing it solely because we could get the match, even though it's nice. So that said, even if it's, hey, we're trying to get it before the 29th, if it's something that we're not comfortable with, I don't think it should be there.
And your hands aren't tied. But if you obligate this money for a certain purpose and it's no longer valid, you can make a budget adjustment. You know.
Awesome. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay.
You can make budget adjustments between lines and everything else.
Great.
I think you ought to consider, without prejudicing your decision, you know, how much you have in reserves, because if you those reserves can be used for match, and they're a lot more than your annual budget. You might be able to leverage a lot of money.
Yeah, Bill makes a really important point, and would in particular, I certainly understand and agree with your concerns. I think that this is such an important project potentially that I'm confident we can figure it out if and when the time comes. I mean, I've applied for grants before not being entirely sure how I was going to pay for them and, figured it out. And I'm confident that we can do that when the time comes and that we should encourage WID to proceed.
Yeah, no, I'm all for the encouragement. I just didn't want to be in a position, and it's great if we can make those adjustments, and then if everybody understands that. We just don't want to be in a situation where we've awarded something and then things don't come through and we're turning around and saying, look, we can't spend this money anymore. And so we're essentially taking the money back, and that, I don't know, that seems like an interesting position to be in. But if everybody understands that going in, that we're having a conditional approval for some of these things, or these things may change depending on what we've approved, then I'm okay with that. But that's my main thing, is that, look, we may decide afterwards that this is something that we didn't want to necessarily do if it took away every penny that we had. If going in, everybody understands that this is this is the case, and that we may readjust if the grant money doesn't come through, then I'm okay with that, as long as everyone's okay with it.
I'm still hesitant because I'm not sure. I'm listening to and reading and hearing about where COVID's going, and it's all around us. And I'm looking at all these projected projects that are in our near future. How is that going to hit? You know, what are our chances? Say we do get hit hard, then money we put into something for billboards, for this or that, everything's just been wiped out. I mean, I just don't feel comfortable putting ourselves out on a limb like that with the way COVID is moving, and it's all around us.
So what we can do?
So I'm looking at the future. You're talking about money in the future, okay? But what are our second plans? What's our second? Do we have something in lined up for if we do get hit hard during all of this funding that we're approving, we're applying for, and all of these events, they all crash because COVID hits New Mexico hard, like it's doing Arizona, it's doing Texas. You know, we got to think about shit like that. I mean, this is really what do you want to play with your future? That, you know, I'm hesitant. I'm very hesitant.
Right. So we can go through all these individual things. I mean, some of these things we've been talking about now, but for the next meeting, for each thing that we'd like to encumber or not encumber, we can go over it and be comfortable with it and decide what we want to encumber. I think for me, I'm comfortable with most infrastructure. Most of the things that we're doing is for the longer term, even when we're outside of COVID. So some of those things we could probably all agree on that those will continue to work. So the remaining portion of wayfinding, we already approved E. Romero. The mobile app is, and then we push into the next meeting. I believe there's the Riverwalk as well. That's in there to consider as part of our infrastructure. Now, originally before grant, we were saying, hey, we don't have enough infrastructure money for all of these projects. Something's got to give. But those are the things that we're kind of changing now, knowing that we can get matching money from this grant. Those are the type of chances that we can maybe, even though we haven't budgeted it or we don't know what our income is, those are the risks that we can take in order to encumber it for this grant. And if it gets really bad, I just needed that confirmation. I need to specify which bill when I talk to Bill, because I forget there's two bills. Dr. Taylor, as he suggested, yes, we can make, if we can make changes later on and everybody's having those understandings, then we can work through this. So
the other question I would have for WIT is are they just looking for us to put up some amount of money for as a match, or are they concerned about what we're spending it on? Because to answer Georgina's question, if there's not going to be any tourism, we could just transfer that to infrastructure and get match for infrastructure projects.
Right.
Is there any way that we can gauge, let's say we do approve these on the action items next meeting, but also there's some sort of clause saying that this can be put on hold if COVID does not burn itself out by next year? And is there sort of way that we can gauge moving forward, or we just play it by ear what the governor says, what the federal government says? There'll have to be a way for us to sort of pull back on this money if we approve it. Won't you say?
Go ahead, Rick.
The infrastructure projects can start right as soon as either you apply larger stacks to them or EDA funds, because construction can go on right now. For the marketing, the EDA grant is for marketing money to restore your economy, your tourism economy after COVID.
Okay.
It is a 2-year grant. We may not be able to use the money till the second year or next spring or, you know.
So some of those things that I'm not sure from what Bill Hendrickson was telling me, there's some items that we're going to have to approve again. And I forget which one he was telling me because we kind of were, we approved them right before the budget. So they're, but I mean, I guess some of the things, the concerns is, and so it's great. Most of the stuff we can, as far as marketing wise, that's what I wanted to hear. If we can move it to 2021, that's going to behoove us the best. Again, I'm going to repeat it. It really does. We had our hopes up, but it really does look like 2020 is a wash. We're not headed in the right direction. The restaurant is closing down again. So, we approved billboards. Again, I mean, the thing is, if we can approve those billboards for 2021, I think it'll be ridiculously wasting money for 6 months from here on out. I know we approved it, but considering that we are going in reverse and, that traffic's going down, I think we need to figure out how to encumber where it's used for 2021 and not the rest of 2020. And I think there's going to be plenty of billboards available. So those kind of things, I think we need to have a discussion on what's important, what's going to match. I'm not saying that we can disapprove it, but I think we need to make that conditional that we're not buying billboards in the middle of a pandemic when the state is asking for people not to travel into the state. In fact, using tourism dollars to advertise not to come into the state right now. So some of those things we need to be smart about. Some of the things we've already approved, from my understanding, we could always, it's already in our list that could be used for matching grants. So just because the visitor's guide didn't come out this year, we could still use it for match, correct? Even though we haven't produced it yet, we could use it for 2021. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there's a full-on list here that we can go one by one and decide whether we want to encumber. I think we want to, how comfortable we want to get on how much we want to do. Issue, we'll have to decide whether what exact income that we're going to have. So I know it sounds like you're projecting an income here with what you'd say that you'd like spent, right? So you're just kind of saying, hey, you expect to have some of this money in collections as we go on.
The number I'm using right now is Bill Hendrickson's projected number. If I was projecting it, it would be higher because you were higher in April, May, and June than anybody would have thought.
Right, but that's numbers he already calculated for that. But I mean, that's just part of the money that would be encumbering down. I mean, what I'm confused by, so did he, in his projection, did he also say what's going to be our projection for what we're collecting the next coming months?
For the 12 months of FY21. He based it on 25% of what you collected last year.
Okay, so they went pretty conservative.
And I'm using that number in terms of what I think you have available. The main thing, Krutik, that you have available is the budget that's been circulating leaves 140,000 unspent at the end of next year. So that's the decision you have to make. Do you put money into things that may get delayed, or do you keep it in the bank? Well,
I mean, that 140 isn't necessarily in the bank yet. So the way we budgeted is we worked with what we had. So the big problem is, so what we thought was we'd make those adjustments when we knew or had a better idea of the income we were looking at. But certainly with that information, we can encumber more with the assumption that we're going to get at least that revenue, or collectively that revenue that's remaining. So that's what we'll do for the next meeting. I believe on the rest of the agenda, I think we put it at the end here. So I'm not sure why it's there. Chuck, on these last few, the Friends of the Las Vegas Museum, Jack Johnson, Texas heavyweight title, is that different from the 50K? Kind of refresh my memory on what that is.
It's hard to understand what you're asking, Kritik.
It's right on the agenda. The Friends of the City of Las Vegas Museum, Rough Rider Museum, Jack Johnson kept his heavyweight title.
All those were there because you all need, as of June 30th, a lot of those were canceled because of the start of the new fiscal year. So those are there so you all could prioritize and then take action on the next meeting and how you were wanting to fund those, and they would need to reapply for funding because as of June 30th, they did expire. That's the purpose for them being there.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't think we awarded any of those.
No.
At that application, so I believe what we're going to say is just have them reapply.
Correct.
In the last meeting, we set aside 20,000 for events for 2021. So I believe they could, we'll set a date for where they could apply, so we could award that money at that time. Because I don't think we're going to fall. The CCHP, same thing. I'm not sure if that's happening. I don't think so. So most of those are the things that we may discuss for the next meeting is the film festival again. We need to know whether that's something we'd like to do for 2021, or we'd ask them to reapply. It's something we can encumber right now, so we can have that for discussion in the next meeting. So basically, the next meeting is going to be about what we encumber that's tied to this grant, and we need to be comfortable spending it. Hopefully we have some more answers on how flexible we could be or how council will approve this. So if we can make it conditional on the grant, maybe some of the things we could conditionally approve that this is what we'd like to spend if the grant comes through, and that's the condition. So if that's something we can do, that's how we could approve it or that would be our recommendation that we can give in our next meeting. I believe we need to get these things done before an August meeting is what Bill Hendrickson was telling me. But your hard date again was with for encumbering?
I plan to submit the joint city Las Vegas first proposal the end of August, where there's still lots of money left, which would require that your recommendations have been voted on at the council's August 19th meeting.
Okay, so we need to have a recommendation in by enough in time for council to approve on the 19th. Okay. Is everybody understanding what we have in front of us for what we have remaining to do? We've got a grant that we have an opportunity for. We have some projects on the table that we originally thought we don't know if we can fund or not fund based on what's happening with Rogers Tax, but because of this grant, we can go piece by piece to approve it. We'll be making sure it's on the agenda. We can talk about each one and have it approved so we can recommend it to council. If there are things that are not on this list or a project or so on, then we should talk about it, or at least have that communicated so we can have it on the next lodgers tax meeting. My only concerns is any of the ones, if we're spending anything or anything for 2020 event or marketing related, my push would be to push any of that to 2021. And whoever we're working with needs to understand that. I think me and Alan were really trying to push that. I think Lamar will have an understanding of that. So now I just need the entities, i.e. IBA, to understand that this is probably a bad idea to start billboards right now. So hopefully that's not started, but January, crossing my fingers, we'll just say 2021, that would be a great time to start a campaign if we're out of this, is my hope. But that's kind of maybe something that can be discussed on IBA's side, so you guys can have an understanding on that. That would be my only issues on some of the suggestions that I see here, that we want to make sure it's to launch 2021, and so on. Some of the stuff, again, just to repeat, that we can start off immediately is the infrastructure stuff. That doesn't sound like it's time related at all and worthwhile doing. And so if we need to prioritize, and it's about timing now, we could prioritize infrastructure for sure, even if it's outside of our infrastructure budget. What we could also do, and I know it's not on the agenda, but maybe it doesn't need to be, we could also discuss whether we want to adjust our reserve or not. And if we are comfortably adjusting our reserve amount and reducing it, then that's more that we could use for that. So I'm open to the board on that as well. We know what number we're looking at for the next meeting.
Can let me just say something about the reserve. Government entities keep reserves because they have ongoing obligations. And so, if you're at the state, you got to open schools up, and those kinds of things. But the need for reserve, I think, for lodgers tax is relatively muted because you don't have employees that you have to keep on. You don't have contracts that you're obligated to do. Yeah, you might want to continue to do advertising, but you can always reduce the amount of advertising. So you have a tremendous amount of flexibility over your budget. And so,
well, at the time, in our defense, at the time we approved it, it was kind of, well, what we're going through now. So we thought we would have almost no funding or zero. So we were worried we wouldn't be able to fund the visitor's guide or something, the visitor center or something. Knowing that, now we have, and we also have a better understanding of the budget of what our responsibilities are and what we've been paying for. So now that those things have been clarified, I believe in some sense, I think we can make an adjustment to the reserve, knowing that we're not going to put anything specific in danger going forward. I think it's definitely something we could look at now that we have a better understanding, or a little bit better understanding of what our situation is. And again, if there's any other, if I'm not, and if this is what I see and if this is clear, then other than some of these things, we've accounted for what we're spending every year. So I don't see why we wouldn't be able to make an adjustment to that reserve and have more funding available for the grant. So either we could do that now and have those numbers ready for the next meeting, or we could do it in the next meeting and we can do some quick math and have that little bit more there, depending on what number we choose. Because I believe we moved our reserve to 25. What?
Are you going to make it in a formal motion, or how are you thinking of making these changes?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. So if we can either do that now, or we can leave that for the next meeting. If we do it now, then you guys can get the math ready on what we can.
I think if you're going to do something like that, it needs to be an actual agenda item.
Okay. Well, I mean, when we first enacted it, it was a motion, so that's what I was wondering about.
I would recommend that you make it an agenda item for the next meeting, and
Okay.
we can just get the verbiage now, if you'd like, and how you'd like to do it, and then we can make it an agenda item for the next meeting.
All right. So I'm open to the board. So just to be clear, so my memory is clear. When we originally moved it, we moved it from 15 to 25 or 10 to 25.
I thought it was 15.
Okay. I mean, if it was 15 to 25, I don't know. It's over my head right now. I can't remember what we had for here. Let's see if I can-
I don't have my minutes from when we did that, but I'm pretty sure it was 15 to 25, and that was one of our last meetings we had in the chamber.
Okay, so we can come up with a number we're comfortable with. We can go back to 15 if that's what was the case. If we have a clear understanding of the budget and we're not in danger, then we can go back to the 15. So that's what we can suggest be on the agenda for approval, disapproval on the next special meeting.
And once it's on the agenda, you can have the discussion and make a decision to accept that reduction, not accept it, reduce it by even more. So just having it on the agenda.
Sure. Okay.
We make a motion to put this on the agenda?
No, just give me direction. All I need is direction to place it on the agenda, and I will. And I just need the verbiage of how you want it to read.
Just Chuck, I mean, it would be discussion of, and approval, disapproval of adjustment of our reserve budget.
Adjustment of reserve reserve amount, you mean?
Yes. Or reserve percentage, you can say.
Okay.
All right.
Great. And the next meeting will be when?
We can decide that. I know we need to get this done before we know we have a hard date of August 19th for our recommendations. So what we can do is communicate back with email, maybe when we have Bill Hendrickson back, we can figure out when we could have the exact meeting. We need to know the time frame, I guess, on how soon before, or far in advance before the August 19th meeting that the lodger's tax can recommend and everything will still flow with the city. After that suggestion, we could set a hard date and make sure everybody can attend.
Okay, so right now we'd probably be looking like July 28th because council has their meeting that we need to meet those dates as well. So
I'm sorry. So we need to get it in before the August 19th council meeting, right?
right. So would you?
Okay. I mean, I also want to make sure to give time so we know. We're gonna number one find out more and more about the grant as Wood gets through it. we're going to have time to look through and make sure that each one of these things is something we're going to be comfortable with, and we can have a better understanding of exactly what money that we would have. And so my hope is with that meeting, we would get everything we need to accomplish for at least some bit of time done within that meeting. So that'll provide some time. So with the first week of August work?
I'll have Mr. Anderson get back with you on that exact date for that meeting.
Okay.
This could be presented to the August 12th meeting because the council has gone away from this this kind of two different kinds of meetings, so they can take action on any meeting. So
Okay.
we're currently scheduled for the 12th and 19th.
Okay, so if we have, let's see, I can pick a Tuesday. All right, so August the 4th work? That would be almost the full week before the 12th.
That'll work for me.
That'll be fine.
Okay. What do you think, Alan? Will that work for your calendar, the August 4th?
That works for me too. This is Gabe.
All right. Looks like we got almost everyone just except just Alan. I think we've taken his calendar.
Mr. Garcia, will that work for you as well?
That's good for me, this Alan.
But Gabe?
Yeah, he said yes.
Okay.
Okay.
right.
It looks like we could do August 4th. All right, and so we'll let's try to get a new list with just the things we could approve and let's get all the old events out of there, and so we have a clear list of what we're going to of what we're going to approve and try to encumber, and we can have another meeting with Hendricks as well if we want to go over that and clarify. As long as we have everything that we want to
Okay, I was gonna go up there now.
at least decide on for the next meeting. I don't want to leave anything out, so we'll talk about it all and go through it item by item.
It was hard to understand. Somebody else's mic was cutting over yours, so I couldn't get what you were saying.
Yeah, just before the next meeting, we'll have a clean list of exactly what we're going to approve or disapprove as far as spending before the next meeting. So we'll just don't include any old events or anything those are now gone, just that we can approve for the future funding. And a lot of it is in Gabe's list, and a lot of it is also in what Bill Hendrickson already had on his list. And so let's get that out and shoot it out to everyone. And if there's anything missing or any concerns, the board members can communicate before we get to the meeting, so we don't miss anything. Hopefully, we can just get this all done during that final meeting. This also gives us plenty of time, so hopefully we just get on it early to create the agenda, so we're not rushing towards it in the end, or we shoot it out without the things that we need in it.
That sounds good.
Okay, it looks like we're at the end. I will entertain, if there's any other discussion or concerns, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, second? All right, we have
I
a
second it.
I second.
All right, we got multiple seconds. Roll call?
Kritek Bhakta,
Yes.
Alan Alfeld,
Yes?
Gabriel Garcia, Gabriel Garcia. Gabe, your mic is muted.
I think it passes though.
Okay, Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes,
Shauna Sandoval.
Yes.
I have a motion from Shauna Sandoval, a second from Georgina Ortega Angel. The motion does carry.
All right, meeting adjourned. Okay, we'll see you guys. I'll hear all you guys on the 4th or maybe before. Just make sure to communicate on email if there's any concerns on what we're approving there. Okay, guys. All right, we'll see you.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody.